Leader in relation to this. I look back in April. This is not a priority. And if we look at what the SIPO is telling us, they're telling us back in 2009, the annual report, page 22, SIPO recommends that the Department of Finance should draft new legislation based on best practice for dealing with conflicts of interest and consolidate. Fast forward to 2021 annual report, page 12. For a number of years, the Commission has called for a comprehensive review of the ethics framework in annual reports and so on. Over and over, Minister, it is not good enough to come in today and say it's complex and that you're still looking at it. The review was completed more than 2 years ago. It took years to get the review. I'm quoting from a 2009 annual report. It's now 2025. It's more than 2 years after the annual review, and you have absolutely no heads of bill for us, no date, no anything, and an absolute failure to recognise what SIPO is telling us in terms of governance, in terms of oversight, and in terms of their lack of power to act.
Minister.
I thank both the deputies, and what I would say is I'm in the department a number of months, and my commitment is to bring forward a general scheme, but I want to make sure that as I'm advancing that, that I examine. There's been a long history to this that you've referenced, and the history has been too long. Deputy Connolly referenced 2009, and Deputy O'Callaghan referenced other time points, and I do want to bring forward a general scheme that can be examined by members to try and strengthen the framework that's there, and I'm committed to doing that. But I have to make sure I construct a scheme which responds to the need for strengthened and underpinned by integrity principles, improving the transparency that I've referenced, and that's my commitment, is to progress that. And I said that, I think Deputy Connolly asked me this in April, and I'm committed to working through that. I'm bringing forward a scheme, and when I'm in a position to give a specific date on when I can publish it, I'll bring that to the House. But I'm currently examining the respective policy considerations and the decision points that have to be made for a scheme, and then it'll be drafted and published as is the normal practice.
Deputy Connolly.
So we'll go back to 2019, submission to public consultation on the regulatory impact analysis. SIPO's mandate includes oversight of the Electoral Act, and then the go on. Challenges for SIPO in this role. Lack of independence of SIPO in terms of budget, staffing and reporting to Oireachtas. SIPO does not have its own vote, unlike other jurisdictions. It doesn't a dedicated vote would allow it more independence, which is vital, and autonomy. Burdensome framework for reporting. 7 statutory reports required under the Electoral Act alone. 4 of the 6 members of SIPO Commission are ex officio with other commitments, which limits the time they can have to focus on SIPO. SIPO secretarial staff also have responsibility for other operations within SIPO's remit. The need for the definition of political purposes, the definition of third parties, expenditure limits, no limits on expenditure for Seanad elections or referendum, unlike other elections, inconsistent disclosure requirements for political parties, and so on and so on. Little power by way of investigation, local elections treated differently, and that's only a small sample of the inadequacies of the existing legislation that is just, it's the opposite to what democracy needs.
Minister.
Yeah, and that's why my Deputy Connolly listed a whole broad range of policy areas which have to be considered in the context of a scheme which will be brought forward, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we will do, and publish a scheme in light of that. And that's what I'm committed to doing. The programme for government is clear on the need to update the ethics in public office legislation, and my commitment will be to bring forward a general scheme, and when it's ready I'll give that, I'll publish it for the House, and it'll be for all members then to feed in about how we can ensure that it's a strengthened piece of legislation, and obviously there'll be a pre-legislative scrutiny process around that, and that's what I'm working through at the moment and committed to doing that.